Hello and welcome to the first episode of Custom Track Review. I'm Justin, not affiliated with Rate That Custom Track, and today we're going to be looking at 8 custom tracks, 1 battle stage, and a texture hack. Sometimes I like to look at the Wiki Talkdown website to see some new custom content for the game, and I thought maybe I should just review a few tracks for my channel so that everyone gets to enjoy the experience together. So let's just jump into it. Everything I'm going to showcase was made or updated within the past week or so of me initially writing the script and recording the footage. Therefore, we're going to be looking at very new tracks that shouldn't be in any track packs yet. I want to keep the tracks interesting to watch and not review tracks that most people have already seen, like all the tracks in CTGP. The first track we're going to be taking a look at is Sonic Drift 1 Greenhill G by RetroStyle12. On the website, it is described as a custom track made by RetroStyle12 from Sonic Drift 1. It is the first track in the Green circuit. Now, I've never played or even heard of Sonic Drift 1 honestly, so bear with me here as I try and review this. What I noticed downloading the track is that the name of the file is SD1 Greenhills GV1 and not the names of one of the Nintendo tracks, so I'm going to be placing this over Luigi circuit and I hope it doesn't interfere with the track. I'll also take a look at the track from the Sonic Drift game through videos to see how closely it resembles it. When you first load up the track, you are greeted with a very simple minimap and 8 laps. Yep, it's going to be one of those courses. When you time trial the course, it feels very boring and uneventful, but to the creator's credit, that's not what this track was made for. For the positives, it's not that bad when it comes to the visuals of the track. It has nice textures and animations, like the waterfall in the background, and it has a nice and consistent theme, which is what I like to see in most of the tracks that I play. For the downsides, the first turn can be a little too tight sometimes, and it feels too small even for an 8-lap track. The shortcut can also be a bit finicky. For some bugs that I noticed, the track is actually 9 laps long, but for some reason it goes through the 8th lap twice, which is kind of weird. And also the respawns aren't always the best. As for playing this on multiplayer, it is way more interesting, just like Baby Park but with a more dynamic design. It's frantic when you're lapping players and can get hit by any source of items, and the item boxes are rings from Sonic, which is a very nice touch. One last thing to note, I actually found an ultra shortcut on this track, though unless you're playing Magic Cruiser, it's not much faster than just driving the road normally. You just have to wall clip on the middle and it's not out of bounds. So, if RetroStyle12 is watching this, I'd suggest making it out of bounds if you decide to update the track. Also, yeah, it's pretty faithful to the original track, I guess. Since this is a review, I'm going to rate every track out of 10. Dare I say I will rate that custom track. 0 out of 10 would be me getting angry at the track and demanding it be removed from everything, and 10 out of 10 being it should definitely be in CTGP in my opinion, and is a really good track. Anyways, I give that track a 6.5 out of 10. While yes, the multiplayer novelty is there and the visuals look nice, nothing about it screams a 2019 track, and in the end the map is somewhat bland and boring, though it is not a bad track. The second track we're going to be taking a look at is an update for Wild Canyon 3 that's in version 2.0. The track was also made by RetroStyle12. The overview of the track is that it's a custom track made by RetroStyle12. It uses textures from Sonic Adventure 2, and this is the author's first custom track to have animations. I was curious as to how many things he has made, since usually you want to consider loading track animations early in your track creation life, and I realized he has a ton of tracks, arenas, edits, remakes. He just has a ton of everything on the website. Also, I think he really liked Sonic. The track file was also called the name of the track, so I'm going to put it over Daisy Circuit. Like his last track, RetroStyle12 goes for a simple and short design, but with only 3 laps rather than having 9 or any other amount. I feel like the low number of laps works against this track, considering you could finish it in 45 seconds. I would say 5 laps is more suitable. Also, the track feels a lot slower than I think it should be. I'm pretty sure it's normal road, but the simple design and how wide the track is makes me feel like I'm going way too slow. The animations are again pretty good, and this is a good map layout with nice and smooth turns, but this track doesn't really stand out in any sense. I'd encourage Retro Style 12 to maybe add more hills and bumps to this track to make it feel much more like a wild canyon, and maybe add a few more enemies on the track. Also, the water oil spill can be pretty confusing. I'd also encourage him to add more shortcuts, as it's not a very good catch-up track. Overall, I'd rate the track a 5 out of 10. His Sonic Drift Greenhill track had more novelty and multiplayer fun going for it, while the layout here is much smoother. It also feels a little more bland. The third track we're going to look at is LCP Floor It Won by RotationRex. The track is described as a custom track created by RotationRex. It is roughly based on the first track of the minigame Floor It from SpongeBob SquarePants Light's Camera Pants. As of version 1.0, which is the version we are playing, the track has been remade from scratch, now being a port of the original version. Like Sonic Drift, I have never heard of the game that this is referenced from, but I'll try my best to find footage from it and compare the two. Upon downloading the track, I figured out that the download was a zip file rather than the track itself, and there was a readme text file in the folder with the track. So I read it, and it gives the downloader a thanks, tells them what track it replaces, some of the bugs, and future updates for the track. I've never seen someone put a readme text file in a folder with their track, but honestly I thought that was kind of cool that RotationRex decided to do that for this track. Also, it was on Mario Circuit 3, but I changed it to GC on Mario Circuit because something else in the video was already taking up that slot. This track looks surprisingly very good. The textures look nice and the theme is very good on this track. As you can see, it's a short and somewhat complex map design with 6 laps. And as a track, this is pretty good for time traveling, and also has that multiplayer novelty that the Greenhill track had. Some downsides to this track is that there's room for shortcuts that doesn't get used, which I feel kind of sucks, and also the respawns are pretty weird and far back, which can be really easy to fix. I suggest to RotationRex that he updates this with less out of bounds in the middle, but still keeping some of it of course, and fixing the respawns. Overall, the track was well done, which I wasn't expecting honestly from a track that was based off a SpongeBob game. Also, it looks extremely identical to the original track in-game, and still plays well, which is impressive. As for my ranking, I'm giving the track an 8 out of 10. It works well as a standalone track and playing it multiplayer as well. The fourth track we're going to look at is Castle Moat by Yoshivert99. The track on the website is described as Yoshivert99's 10th custom track. The track starts in a moat with a small castle. The players drive through the front side of the castle with pipes, and they go down into a moat with a bit of water. Then they cross through a bridge, a section with oil slicks, and another bridge before reaching towards the finish line. Moreover, the track contains boost portals. I downloaded the track, and it also came in as a zip file with a readme, so I'm beginning to think it's much more of a common practice than I initially thought. Anyways, the readme says what track it was tested to replace, which is nice because the file name was Castle Moat, and also says a thanks and what they used to make it. The other readme in my opinion was better than this, but it was nice that they told me what track it was supposed to replace. Side note, the readme was wrong. It doesn't replace Toast Factory, it replaces Mario Circuit, just a heads up. This track is pretty good, I'd say. It's creative, it's a good length, and it's got some interesting assets, though I want to talk about a few problems first. The sticky road with all the hills and bumps feel a little excessive and thrown into places that don't really fit in my opinion. Also, the water sections could be worked on, as it's just kind of a water texture that you can just go through. Even then, Yoshivert could probably just remove the water entirely from this track or drain it all. I'd like to mention as well that there are barely any item boxes on the track. There are 2 sets and the track is around 2¼ minutes long. This is a huge problem in my opinion. Since item boxes can be easily added, I won't remove a lot of points from my rating, but 2 item sets just won't do. Yoshi Falls and Ghost Valley 2 have 20-second laps, and they both have 3 sets of item boxes. Laps here are 45 seconds, and you only get 2 boxes. Also, one of the box placements is practically blind, so you can't tell if you're going to hit it or not. For my final criticism, even though the boost rings give some personality to the track, I feel like they're out of place. Not a huge glaring problem, but they definitely look out of place when nothing else in the track is red or orange to complement it. Maybe some bright red or orange decorations to fit in the background might make the track look better and have a more consistent theme. I know I said quite a few negatives for this track, but that's because I see a lot of potential here from Yoshivert, and I feel he could improve this track. The layout is nice, the visuals are good, it's a great length for a track, and it's got interesting elements like the castle section and the boost rings. But I still feel that it can be improved to make a very good track, so I'll rate it a 7 out of 10. The 5th track we're going to look at is Aperture Laboratories by Yoshivert99. The website describes the track as Yoshivert99's 11th custom track. The players pass through blue and orange portals, and then they arrive in a room with a laser and acid trays. Then they must drive on a 180-degree turn over the acid before arriving in a room with a turret and various objects from the video game Portal. This finally leads to the finish line. This idea compelled me because I played Portal and enjoyed it greatly, and the idea of turning the game into a track felt compelling and intriguing. One minor nitpick before going into the track is that Yoshivert99 uses Mediafire to upload the files, when he really should just use Discord or Google Drive. Anyways, the track also comes in a zip folder with a ReadMe text file that is basically the same as the last one. So, the track. I feel that Yoshivert really nailed this track pretty well. The theming here is incredible with tons of textures and items that you'd find from the Portal games. I think everything he uses here comes from Portal, which is pretty cool. Also, the blue to orange Portal cannon is really nice as a start, and the fact that you can bounce off the red beam as if you got zapped from it, in my opinion, is really nice as well. The layout is simple, but my favorite tracks are usually tracks with simple layouts, so it's not bad that this track has one. Also, tracks that are 2 minutes long have a perfect length in my opinion if they're going for a standard Mario Kart track like this one is, as opposed to a long 1-lap track or a very short 7-lap track. Some criticism I have for the track is the sticky road sections. Obviously, Yoshivert loves sticky road, but I feel it's also out of place on this track, though it's not that huge of an issue. I just would prefer it to be normal road or have a slight tilt rather than having the extreme one it currently has. Also, I feel a few more obstacles would help this track. Some sections can feel lacking at points. And finally, the textures mainly on the wall can look a little weird and even a little low quality, so better textures would be cool. Though this track is already pretty good. I'd have to give this track an 8.5 out of 10. While yeah, it has its issues, it's still very well done, and I can see Yoshivert becoming a very good custom track creator in the future. The 6th track we're going to look at is Colorful Paint by Varemi. The overview just says Colorful Paint is a custom track made by Varemi, so that doesn't help too much. Side note, that spelling of color hurts me. Yes, I'm a proud Canadian. Anyways, the version of the track says RC1, which to be perfectly honest, I don't know exactly what that means, and I probably should since it's on a lot of custom tracks, but the version history says it's the 4th one. Looking at the track, I won't be too critical as it's obvious it's not in a definitive version 1, but the track is really confusing. The layout is not the worst, but the textures are all just solid colors, and some jumps are weird and feel awkward to go off of. There's also a pretty sizable shroomless shortcut, which probably wasn't intended. As well, there are quite a few paths for turns that really should only have one, and unnecessary cannons. Not to mention the weird stair spiral that really is out of place and doesn't add much. The off-road isn't obvious, and on the first run it can be very confusing. Finally, I didn't get a lap count on my first lap of doing this, and I don't know why, so there's some checkpoint issues as well. I'm hopeful that Varemi can make this look a lot better and have a cleaner design with less confusing paths, because I could see it becoming a nice simple track without all the cannons and unnecessary pathways, and considering it's not in version 1.0 yet, I believe he could still be working on it. But for now, this track gets a 3.5 out of 10. The 7th track we're going to look at is Shifting Sandland version 2.0, originally created by KHacker35000VR, but was updated by ZPL Gaming, I believe. I say I believe because the updates page said he updated the track page, but his name isn't anywhere on it. Anyways, the track on the site page is described as a custom track made by KHacker35000VR, which is based on the level of the same name from Super Mario 64. It starts with a big chunk of land, which leads to a big desert with pokies and random surprises. Then there is a lake with tons of swamps and wood boxes. The pyramid is surrounded by traps, but it is easier to race inside it. Finally, there's an underground path that loops back to the finish line. Going into the track, I didn't know it was from Super Mario 64, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I have not played that game. I think that I know what stage it is based off videos I've seen of it though, so I'm not going to go into the track completely blind on the original material. Even without playing Super Mario 64, I can already tell you that the stage just doesn't translate well when putting it into Mario Kart. The track is really fast, which helps the starting section considering how large it is, but drastically impacts the very sharp turns that this track also has. The road is very thin for how fast the track is after the desert section, and inside the pyramid can just be a total disaster, as evident from the two turns that are complete 180s and humanly impossible to make without slowing down. Not to mention how confusing it is to try and figure out where to go on the course, whether that be no arrows at all, or way too many to understand. The visuals are nice and the theming is good, but the stage just doesn't work as a racetrack. So, I'll be giving this a 4.5 out of 10. The last custom track that we're going to look at is Desert of the Two Roads, also made by YoshiVert99. This guy has uploaded 3 completely different tracks in like 3 days, so that's pretty impressive. On the page, it is described as YoshiVert99's 9th custom track. The track consists of a temple with 2 roads, which contain boost pads and a half pipe. Then the players exit the temple and must avoid some pokies. So again, the track comes in a zip file with a readme in it. Apparently it was tested on Dry Desert, but I renamed it to DS Desert Hills so I could test both this track and Shifting Sandline.
Oh, what? No? Oh, that's it. Woo-hoo. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Woo-hoo. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Woo-hoo. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And yes, we can see Yoshivert loves her sticky road on this track again, but this is also a pretty good track. It's got nice theming, it's fun to drive, it's a very good length, and it's a very good and interesting layout. Some critiques I would give is that the water above the half pipes looks out of place and the track is very wide and long. It could probably use a scaling down. Other than that, I'm still not a huge fan of all the sticky road, but that comes down to a personal preference. So I'll give this track an 8 out of 10. Alright, for the battle stage, I wanted to try out Rotation Station by Bree911. On the page, it is described as Bree911's second custom battle arena. It takes place in a dark and seemingly abandoned subway station. A working subway train travels through the station and can even be entered into while it is moving. There's also a turnstile in the center of the map. So I was really interested in the battle stage based off that description, so I chose to review it in the video.
Oh, what? No?
Let me just say, this is without a doubt one of the best custom battle stages I've ever played. It might even be number one. I played quite a few when I was into custom battle stages for like a week or two, but man, this stage is incredible. The fact that Bree got it to work as well as it does, not only with the turnstile and the subway train that you can get into and run over by, but the CPUs function near perfectly, which is very impressive for a battle stage, especially how complex this one is. It captures what every battle stage should capture, a simple idea made complex but not hard to follow. I was never lost on the stage, which is really good, and it's the perfect size for a large number of people. I was the most impressed with this battle stage out of everything I reviewed in the video. I'd say it's even better than most of Nintendo's battle stages with its creativity and functionality. Even though battle stages can't really get into CTGP, I'd still have to give this stage a 10 out of 10.
Ooh, congrats.
And finally, for the texture hack, I'm going to look at a SNES Mario Circuit 3 texture titled GBA Mario Circuit 3 made by Rachy. It's described as a texture hack of SNES Mario Circuit 3 made by Rachy. It is based on the track's appearance in Mario Kart Super Circuit. While not the most revolutionary idea for a texture hack, I wanted to look at it since, from what I saw in the video preview of the stage, it didn't look that bad.
Oh, what? No? Oh!
Playing on the texture, it looks good, and I like the textures for the road and the sand. It does look like it came from Super Circuit, and the theming is pretty good, though not that hard considering it is a texture hack of SNES Mario Circuit 3. I don't use textures really at all. I like to play with the Mario Kart that God intended, but my favorite textures are ones that are simple and clean. I also like night theme ones, but that doesn't really relate to this track. Though not better than the original textures in my opinion, I still think Rachy did a good job here, and I'll be giving the texture an 8 out of 10. So that's it for the video. I know this is very different from what I normally do, but I want to experiment more with my content, and this was something that I want to make. So if you enjoyed it, let me know, and I might make some more of these videos in the future. Until next time, peace.